Hello, this is Dorothy Kuhn with the SuccessibleSHE podcast, and with me today is the wonderful Teresa Nguyen of of LanRosePR. And I had to practice saying that, even so it's very simple. And she has a wonderful PR firm that I was introduced to when I was first reaching out to Texas Women's University for the purposes of a wonderful venue for the Her Story Women's Global Empowerment Conference that we are having. One of the 1,000 events worldwide. We're having one of them here in Dallas. And that will be at Texas Women's University. And my wonderful contact there, a man that I knew a bit through our community here, Dr. David Rylander, once he got a big sense of what the real mission of Her Story conferences worldwide are, to make the impossible possible for women and tell women's stories, because throughout history, men have been very effective at telling their stories, and it's time for us to step up too. And when he mentioned Teresa and her PR firm, it was just incredible. And we met at the best place in Dallas to meet for anything for creative people, and that is over at the Dallas Museum of Art. Teresa, tell us a little bit about your agency and why it was just such a grand idea that you suggested that we meet at the Dallas Museum.
First of all, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of your podcast and be a part of the many women's stories that have been untold. And thank you to Professor Dr. David Rylander for introducing us. Really grateful for the introduction. So when you contacted me and you told me about SHE Story Conference, I thought it was really appropriate to meet at the Dallas Museum of Art, since they have an exhibit currently, and I don't know when this will air, but the exhibit right now is a woman impressionist called, her name is Berthe Morisot, and for a century and a half years, she's been unknown. When her colleagues included Monet and Degas, and the only reason why she didn't get any kind of recognition was because she was a woman. So I thought it was very appropriate that we meet there and get inspired and talk and get to know each other.
I agree completely. You know, the metaphor was powerful. To have such a wonderful artist be ignored all this time simply because she wasn't a man. And
yes.
Men are kind of the normative human. And changing that so that, my point related to this is never to diminish men. Men have had really great accomplishments, but to lift up women, because we have great accomplishments too. And when we tell our stories and tell them powerfully, things change in material ways that are wonderful and really open up new vistas for every woman on the planet.
Yes, I agree. And then to go back to your question about more about me and my agency, so I have an agency, a public relations agency in Dallas. It's called LanRosePR, and I just recently changed the name. It was Red ID for 10 years, and on my 10th anniversary, I felt like I wanted to change the agency's name to be more reflective of me. Because Lan is my Vietnamese name, so that's my background, and Lan means orchid. So for the longest time, it was Red ID because I kind of envisioned, I took the back seat, like how a lot of women, we tend to do that. We take the back seat. The Red ID was more so, it's a big company and I'm behind it. And so now going into my 10th year, or 11th year rather, 11th year, I wanted to be more step into the light, and that being my name. And it being my Vietnamese name, it's more endearing And the rose part is actually named after my mom. So it was a reminder for me to not only be authentic and true to myself and step into the light, but also to remember where I came from, and that being from my mom. And I can go more into the meaning of that, but that is the gist of it. And then my agency, I represent lifestyle brands, and that includes restaurants. I have a salon. I work with a yoga center, which is where I'm sitting at right now. After my meeting, I stepped into a separate room. I'm at a yoga center right now. And then
Nice.
Also, I represent a lot of film and cultural festivals, but not limited to those clients, but those are my current clients.
Very good, very good. And, Dr. Islander had nothing but amazing things to say about you. And based on the plans that we have ahead for her story, and ladies and gentlemen of the listening audience, LanRosePR will be doing our PR for in conjunction with our leadership team for the Her Story Dallas conference, and I am super excited because it's so amazing to be working with a true professional in this arena for something as big as this. So I'm really pleased and honored and grateful for this sponsorship, and and to have a new friend who is just so extraordinary, and in a whole variety of ways that you'll get to learn a little bit about today. So my first question is really, is your mother still with us? And is she feeling like amazed and honored wherever she is at your new company name?
Yes, she's still very with me, and she is very proud of me. And she doesn't know that I changed my company's name. She's very simple and thoughtful in that she's more, how are you doing? Are you able to pay your bills? And are you loving what you do? So she doesn't really go more in depth. And of course, she'll be welcome if I did share that with her. But she's more concerned with my everyday, have you eaten yet? And when are you going to eat next? And who are you dating? Are you dating anyone? So our conversations are more like that. But she'll be more than happy to hear about that I named it after her.
Well, tell her I can't wait to tell her my hellos, and I bet she will love it. So wonderful. What brought you to move into the PR space? It's a really interesting space, and one that I don't have, any professional experience with. So I'd love to know what drew you to do it.
Right. So my background, my studies is in journalism. So my interest was in telling stories, in telling more of those untold stories, and that being women, but on a broader scale of diversity. I went to school at SMU, and there weren't a lot of stories being told about what's happening in the Indian Student Association or the Women's Student Association. So that was important to me. I wanted to tell those stories that no one else was telling, because I feel that unless you know about something, you can't care or not care about it. So I felt like I wanted to talk about these stories. So that really goes into PR. Journalism, you're telling the stories. In PR, you're pitching these stories. You're helping to tell the message of the client, of the account. So I'm on the other side of things. But when I started my agency 11 years ago, it was advertising and marketing. There's a longer story before that, but when I got into it was more advertising. But then the past 5 years, I've evolved and I've grown, and in that I found that I love helping these clients tell their stories and their message and their direction, kind of I present it to the journalists or the editorial, and with that, they tell that story. So I'm still helping tell these stories. And that was important to me.
And you know what? I find it so important for people to have some help telling their story because we can stumble through our stories. It's not clear to us what are how to craft the arc of a story in a way that intrigues other people. And having some help in that area is just crucial to getting the kind of attention that we need. And attention for women is what her story is all about, to really bring to light those incredible stories in a way that is relatable and repeatable, to a story that is so compelling that people just remember it like that, and they're interested in telling it to somebody else, or like 5 somebody else's. It's so cool.
Right. I find that most of my clients are Asian restaurants or women-owned businesses, and there's a cultural sensitivity to that, and that's something that I'm attracted to, and I find that the clients are attracted to me because I don't approach a story as is, but more of like where it came from, or in their backgrounds, and the cuisine and the story behind it.
You know, this is so important, and like normal people do not realize, I didn't realize myself, of course, for quite a long time, that almost all of the marketing that, I mean, we live in a culture that is just saturated with marketing. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry in the US alone, let alone worldwide. And it's amazing how much influence marketing has on each and every one of us, what we buy and what we don't buy, and all those kinds of things. And those big agencies are run by men. You know, I mean, I know lots of good men. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but there's no balance there. And that's where the upside opportunity really lies. The men who make the decisions, and the photographers who shoot all of those pictures, you know, for high-level fashion magazines. Almost every image that you see from high fashion is from the eye, the lens of a male photographer. And we think we're choosing fashion that suits us. Our view of fashion is fully informed by a male point of view and a male eye for things.
Yes, and also that reminds me of going back to the More So exhibit at the Dallas Museum of Art. She's a woman, so she didn't get any kind of recognition, but she also painted women. And back then, women were not allowed to paint women, or that was looked down upon. And that was one difference I saw with More So impressionist artwork. From Monet, her colleagues, Monet, Formel, is that her sensitivity towards women, the way she painted women, you can definitely see it was a woman's touch.
Yes.
And that's the difference. That's different.
It's a big difference. Yeah, she had, I mean, there were wonderful pictures where the subject of the entire painting was a woman, and you don't see that in other impressionist art. You see women as, you know, a part of the crowd,
right?
With a lovely hat or something like that. Yeah, it was strikingly different. I agree completely, and that needs to be brought to the fore. Yeah. So wonderful. Well, what else do you want to say about what your work means in the lives and the businesses of the people that you serve, for them to be able to get their story out in a way that is really compelling to people who want to know about them?
Well, I think my approach is like to get to know the client in their full authenticity. And in that being, like, there are no two clients that are the same. So that's what I bring to the table, is I truly understand them, their background, their story, where they came from, where they want to go. And and in crafting this story, or not crafting, but in telling this story, I really try to be authentic to them, whatever that may be. And being authentic is also like the way I approach a Laotian restaurant versus a Vietnamese restaurant. Laotian restaurant, in the grand scheme of things, do people know or understand Laotian cuisine? Most people don't, or most people don't even know that it's a country in Southeast Asia. So I approach it with that cultural sensitivity, not just with the clients in understanding their authenticity, but also understanding their market.
Yes.
Does Dallas market understand where Laos is? Do they understand Laotian cuisine? How do I approach that where they could understand it? And also this cultural sensitivity of like, it could possibly be compared to Thai food, but do we want that? No, because Laotian food is its own cuisine. It should not be compared to another cuisine. So I'm very sensitive and understanding and mindful of the words I use to tell that story to the media so they can tell a story where it's not being compared to another cuisine, and also understanding the market and how they could understand it, and also be intrigued and introduce this to them.
Yeah.
So there's definitely an art to it.
Oh, definitely.
And I have a very strong niche in that way. And also I can understand it because of my own background. I'm Asian American, Vietnamese American, and so I've grown up eating food and that people doesn't quite understand, and also I have to explain to people what I am and where I grew up in a small suburbs of Fort Worth, and that also ties into what I do now, is having to explain to people that I'm not Chinese, and I'm Vietnamese, and what does that mean, and why am I eating that, and where does it come from, and just having that background and that sensitivity. It's important in what I do and what I provide for my clients.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you know, people can, when they know enough about a culture, they can begin to develop what I call refined distinctions in a culture. Mm-hmm. And you know, for like regular Texans whose families may have lived here for a long time, people who look like me, then you know, we know the difference between a Dallas accent and a Fort Worth accent. We know the difference between a Dallas accent and a Lubbock accent, and things like that. And it's just like New Yorkers, you know, there are those 5 boroughs in New York, and every one of them has a distinct accent. And when you live there, you know what part of New York somebody's from by their local accent. And developing those refined distinctions is something that just takes kind of immersion in and a curiosity about something that is new. And when you grow up in a culture, then it's automatic for you. You just don't even notice that you have expertise in those refined distinctions. So good for you for finding such a great niche, and one that you know, the greater world is just richer for the kind of work that you do.
Thank you. Yes, and I'm very well fed by my restaurant clients, and so I have a very fulfilling job, and I fully love it. And you have to, having your own business, and then to continue day to day, you have to love what you do. You just do.
Mm-hmm. You do, and I love what I do, and I know you do too. So one of the things that of course really drew us together was the Her Story conference that's coming up here in Dallas, and that will be in March of 2020. You also mark that down. It's the first Wednesday, starts the first Thursday in March, and is wrapping up on the first Sunday, or the second Sunday in March, the 8th. So it's going to be an incredible thing, and so you can go to. I have a pointer in for. To where you sign up for that, and that easy pointer that isn't like a mile long to type out is dorothykuhn.com/herstory, HERSTORY. And so go there and you can sign up for that. And I'll put that in the show notes as well. So some of the things that we're planning ahead, Teresa, really are, kind of a big event in the fall, and then another big event in early 2020, like January, February time frame. We don't want to say too much about those things because we're still planning them, but you might give people just a little taste of what to look for with those events that we're in the planning stages for.
Well, I think we met once, and we've had we've talked twice about it, and so far what we're planning is we have a lot of great speakers, and then so leading up to the conference, we're gonna host like a preview, and so you can mix and mingle and meet maybe the speakers or the sponsors or the organizers. So that's all we have for now, but really more excited about all the different panels and the speakers during the Her Story conference.
Indeed, and the speakers for the conference are going to be, speakers that are accomplished speakers, and also people who are budding speakers, women who have a story to tell about themselves and the accomplishments that they have achieved against all odds in many cases. And we have even spots for some men who want to tell a story about a woman who is important in their lives. There's a wonderful storyteller who I met a few years ago at the Tejas Storytelling Festival. I think we talked about this maybe a little bit, Teresa, but his great aunt was the first woman to run for president in the United States. And he, as a storyteller, tells a very long and very detailed, performance piece to relay the story of how this great aunt ancestor of his was drawn from a very difficult circumstance with a husband who beat her and all kinds of things, to running for president and running for women's rights. And it's from those women who stood up and really said, this is not okay and we deserve better, and fought for it and got mad enough to do something about it. Those are the reasons that those are the women who gave us the opportunity to vote, to have our own bank accounts, the things that have come along in the years and decades since that time. Yeah. And more is ahead. More is ahead.
Yeah.
So what? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, well, you're the guest, so I'm deferring to you.
Yeah, so I was just going to add that that goes to the name, my PR agency, LanRose, and name it after my mom to remind me every day where I came from. And in this case, my parents were refugees, and they came to the States. My mom, in '81, my mom was 5 months pregnant with me, and I had pneumonia. They did not know the language or the culture. And 2 months, I was premature. And 2 months later, they had me. So I was 7 months, 2 months early, 2 months premature, and then I was in the hospital. So I know because of my parents, I am able to be where I am now, do what I am now, because they did not receive higher education than high school, neither one of them, and they were farmers. My mom was a farmer in a rice field, and one generation later, I was born and raised in America, and I have my own business. So I felt like it was very important for me to acknowledge and recognize my mom in my name, in my agency's name.
Wow.
So moving forward, I would always remember why I'm doing what I'm doing, and who I am and where I am is because of my mom and my dad.
Yes.
But in this case, I just included my mom here because I feel like she's the fire in my family.
Ah, I get that. I get that. My mom was a fire in our family too. And,
Yeah.
my father was supportive, but his focus was elsewhere. And so she was
Mhm.
the one that, well, like, I mean, I fell in love with math because of my mom. She was the one when I hit a wall and couldn't figure out counting by 25s. It just made no sense to me in the second grade.
Yeah, yeah.
And not that it's hard, but it was new. And she sat with me and sat with me until after a while it dawned on me. And she just kept me gently, in the game long enough to get that dawning realization of, oh, I get it now. And that's such a powerful moment in any life.
Hmm. I
Indeed.
agree.
So how do people get more information about you if they know somebody who could really help uh, 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 benefit from the help that your agency needs? I know that you're changing your branding and your name. Are you having a new web address as well?
Yes, it's LanRose, LAN, RosePR.com.
Okay, then that's LanRosePR.com.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, very good. Well, I can't wait to see that new website, and I can't tell you just how proud and honored I am to have you as a new friend and a colleague in this wonderful journey toward her story, and really spreading the message of the whole variety of uh, uh, of people who are just amazing and whose stories deserve to be told.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm
My pleasure.
excited too.
My pleasure. And you all look in the show notes below, and I will have for you how to get a hold of Teresa too. So bye for now, and stick with us for the next episode of the Successible She podcast, because you can be successful in any area that is yours to have. Bye for now.